welcome back to another round of Split Decision here on the Sports Geek Radio Network. I'm Murray Downs, Downers89 on Twitter. Split DEC MMA is the show. Go on Facebook, like us, comment on everything we write up there. Like we talked about earlier this week, no live event this week, and we've been meaning to have this special guest on for a while. He's would it be the Ultimate Fighter? Are you the ombudsman of the Ultimate Fighter? Is that one of your titles? Or do you just accept
I like to
weekly
consider
blogger?
myself, on my other column, the Nostradamus of MMA. So I suppose I can add Ombudsman of Tough to my repertoire.
See, that other title is kind of funny because I read some comments on your picks, and a lot of people probably want to give you that nickname.
People fail to realize that historically Nostradamus made like thousands and thousands of predictions, and only a couple came true. So I think my percentage is way better than his.
Yeah, I guess so. And of course, that lovely voice is Danny Downs. You may know him as the WEC veteran, UFC veteran, UFC Magazine, UFC.com, or the brother of one of the lovely co-hosts on this show. We've seen you. You do your prediction pieces, but we kind of want to just focus on the Ultimate Fighter Live this season. You gave your weekly picks. You added, the Downs brand humor. It was kind of nice to see the general public get exposed to it, but ultimately we see Michael Chiesa go up against Al Quinta. We call them affectionately known as RoboCop. Do you think Chiesa was the best fighter on the show, or do you think just due to he just played the game the best, or just the way it broke?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I know Chiesa won, and you can't argue with results, but I'm still kind of, lukewarm about him. When I was watching the show, there's nothing really extraordinary about him. He's got, a decent grappling game, but his stand-up's not terrific. And even I know a few people on the coaches have other guys that are training with him, and they didn't even really, put him in their, top three. There are a lot of other guys, especially Joe Proctor. Heard a lot of people talking about how good he was, but, the thing with fighting, it doesn't matter how good you look in the gym or anything like that. Chiesa showed up whenever he had to and just delivered on the fight and ended up getting those victories in that contract.
Yeah, and I guess, opinions about the show have been kind of, well, at least for us, we were up and down with it. We liked the live format, but then I kind of missed the shenanigans. Chris Tickle tried to do his best. We had him on last week, and he was an awesome interview. I don't know if you listened to it, but he talked about some things that weren't aired. Apparently Quinta just got hammered one night and was puking everywhere. But then the producers had to put him. He threw a knife at. You have to go back and listen to Chris Tickle. He's the man. What did you think of the live format, and how do you feel about them now? They're going back to next season, the recorded format.
I think the live format had there's pros and cons. It was nice to have the fights happen live, where it's not predetermined. I feel like a lot of times with the tape shows, you could pretty much tell what was going to happen. It was like the previews for a movie to give everything away. That's how the tape show seemed. But I think the biggest problem with the live format was pacing, because they didn't know how many rounds went live, don't know how long it'll be, they don't know how to edit it. They had problems with going to the sudden victory round, and a lot of the stuff were really rushed. Just because I had to write articles every week, I could tell how pretty much the format went. You do this, you see the one guy's training, you see the other cam's training, there might be a couple minutes of something else that happened. They'd tell each fighter's background story, and then you'd have to fight. So, it was kind of nice now to have the live fights, but I think, especially with the tape format, you get to edit better, there's a better flow, and you can develop kind of longer-term, storylines. And plus, you media people with all your editing can exploit people a lot better when you have more material.
Hey, it's all about creating a story. We're going to rearrange your words, talking about how we're going to figure out a way for you to come off as a communist in this interview.
Yeah, to talk about how I hate America or something.
We're just going to put, you just said you hate America.
There we go.
We're going to cut that clip up and just loop it for 10 minutes and put it on the UG, and everybody's going to hate you. But Chiesa, he's the winner, and I guess some people say the Ultimate Fighter's kind of run its course. It's definitely one of the biggest parts in growing the brand. Season 1, a lot of people look at the Stephan Bonn or Forrest Griffin bout as kind of launching the UFC. And you look at some of those early winners, Diego Sanchez, Forrest Griffin, Bisping in season 3, Rashad in season 2. Do you think it's run its course, or do you? Because like you said, Chiesa, he's still pretty raw prospect. I don't know without the show if he'd be in the organization yet. Last season, Tony Ferguson, he's looked pretty good in a couple of his fights. Court McGee, I don't know. So some of these, I don't know if the recent winners just haven't had enough time. Roy Nelson was season 10, but that was kind of different. He was an established guy. Do you think it's run its course, or do you think we're always going to have the Ultimate Fighter as long as the UFC's around?
Yeah, I'm not sure about it. You're right. A lot of the guys on there are really raw, and that's good in a certain sense. You look at the records of every guy that's on there. It's like 4-0 or 5-1 or something like that. Once in a while, you'll get like an older guy, like who was it, Marcelo this season that's been around. So I don't know if because and the other thing, just in general, MMA's gotten a lot bigger. Look at the caliber of fights you were watching in the early 2000s compared to the way you're watching now. Everyone's a lot better in everything. That's why everyone talks about guys that have been in the UFC for a while, that they just can't hang with the kind of newer generation of fighters. Not even a generation. It's just, people, maybe 5, 6, 7 years, removed. So I think just in general, MMA's gotten better. I'm not sure how they choose people to go on the show. I tried out for the show. I went out with Anthony Pettis one year. Anthony Pettis didn't make it on there. So, and we see where he is now. So, if he wasn't good enough to make the show, but somehow, he ended up winning a WC title and is in line for, a UFC lightweight title. I think that has part of it to do with it. So, a lot of it's just getting, the talent pool in there. But you're right, definitely, the last few guys that have won, they've done okay, but, it's like you always feel like you're thrown into the sharks.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you compare Anthony to, I guess Chiesa now has one lightweight, but the other guys, Jonathan Brookins, you've seen him drop. Ross Pearson, definitely done better than him. Efrain Escudero, definitely done better than him. And then Nate Diaz, they're kind of equal. So, different ways to the top. And who knows if Nate Diaz would have actually been on the show if he wasn't related to the baddest man on the planet, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
I guess now, just looking at some of the stories going around in the UFC right now, seems like the UFC injury bug's kind of catching everywhere. We've seen a couple pay-per-views ruined. First, it wasn't even injuries. It was just Anderson and Chael. They couldn't, get the agreement in the soccer stadium, so then they were going to go to Vegas. And then they're going to have Cruz and Faber. Cruz gets hurt. Then they have all these guys. Some people are saying it's because, it's just new health insurance. Now that they have health insurance, they don't need to fight. They have plenty of money anyways. They don't need to fight, they're 2 times a year, 2-3 times a year. They don't need that money. They're just a bunch of wusses. I think you can tell how I feel about that answer by the way I framed the question, but what would you say? Is it just now that there's more shows, it seems like that? Or some people have come out and saying it's the intense sparring sessions now that the talent level's gotten up in certain camps? How would you respond to the recent injury bug in the UFC?
And I think people are trying to look for that, the silver bullet, the one reason. But it's a lot of those reasons. I know a lot of guys, whether it was UFC or otherwise, they had to go into fights really hurt. They probably shouldn't have been fighting because they had to, just for survival. They didn't have health insurance. They didn't have this. So if people don't realize how they don't make that much. They look at GSP's numbers and things like that and think every guy's pulling that down. No, just because you're in the UFC, you're not making that kind of money. But I guess they needed the money for the fight, even if it meant going in there and losing. They couldn't, they had to do it because, one, they needed to have enough money to fix themselves, but two, they needed money just to pay rent. And this is even at, the highest level. The other thing, too, is, again, the higher level of competition. The guys are fighting more. It's not, before it'd be common, you'd have maybe 1 or 2 studs at a gym, but now MMA is growing. There's, you see camps that are 5, 6, 7 deep. And guys are just going a lot harder, and, it's part of the game. Look how many injuries that happen on an NFL roster or even basketball, baseball. It doesn't matter, Look at the injury reports that you see in an NFL in league-wide, and that's, it's the same thing. It's just it goes with the sport. When you're training to to bend people's joints ways they shouldn't go or punch them in the face, kick them in the head, it's going to happen. It's just the nature of the beast.
we're gonna have to take a quick break here just due to some time restraints. So make sure to come back. Part 2 of our interview with Danny Boy is coming up in the next round. He gives his thoughts on some of the current UFC headlines, and for you MMA and beer lovers out there, he does a little side project on his Tumblr where he reviews a bunch of beer. So he'll give you a nice tip towards the end of the next segment to pair with your wings and beer for the next UFC fight. So make sure you come back.